Hi Internet, welcome to the Troyan YouTube channel. So this video is coming out on Thin Lizzy Thursday, but it's actually being recorded on January 4th, which is the anniversary of Phil Lynot's death. And every year there's an event called Vibe for Philo, which is a sort of a musical tribute and celebration of Phil's life, where just a bunch of different musicians get together, play music. There's poems, there's stories, and it's a celebration of his life. And it's a really cool event. I've never gone, but it was held virtually this year, and so I got to watch the live stream, and it was for me. I think it's very beautiful that people still like care this much about Phil to be doing this for 35 years. Having a tribute to him, and it's not like a fan worship thing. It's just a sincere like toast to a guy who just like had a big spirit, changed a lot of people's lives, and just hearing the stories of friends who were touched by him, people who were touched by his music, and just like the big spirit that he left. And there's just a lot of love for the guy, and it's a cool little event. And I think it's so cool that like all these years later, they haven't lost interest. Like people still want to do it, and still honor his memory. Like that to me is pretty cool. And I decided for the reaction this week, I'm going to share a clip from a Vibe for Philo. Also, shout out to Brian Malloy for giving me the heads up about it. I would have lost track about as big of a Thin Lizzy fan as I am. I didn't realize it was being live streamed this year. So thanks for Brian for giving me that heads up on that. It was really cool. I get called like a super fan, but like there's stuff I don't know. I'm just a guy who's really into it, who respects Phil as a fellow songwriter, as a master of the craft. As a storyteller, and just as a guy I think I'd get along with. But there's people who know more than me, and so. Shout out to Brian for telling me about this and making sure that I got to see it. So thank you, Brian. I wouldn't have gotten to see the Vibe for Philo, which might be the only one I get to go to. And it was a virtual one, but I'm glad to say that like I was part of the experience. Now this is from 1996, but this is Henry Rollins performing with Thin Lizzy, playing "Are You Ready," which is a song we've already done on Thin Lizzy Thursday. But it's fun to see a different performance, see a cover of it, and see how Henry Rollins is when he fronts Lizzy as opposed to Phil Lynott. So let's kick back and enjoy this live performance from '96.
Are you ready to dance? Are you ready to hit the floor? You know what I'm talking about? Are you ready to give it up? Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to hit the floor? Are you ready? Cause if you're ready, I'm ready, motherfucker!
Yeah, so obviously, dropping in the F-bomb and stuff. I mean, he's got that, he's a punk frontman, has that punk frontman energy. But the thing is, his vocals, while very different than Phil's, are still working in the context of the piece. Like, this is a harder ed song. He is actually working, like, with the band. Like, if you had just told me this was a band that existed, I didn't know Thin Lizzy, and you just saw this performance, you're like, wow, that band seems pretty cool. The frontman, is jacked, running around with his shirt off, full of energy, just really great stage performance. And, Henry Rollins, he's a guy who has a very sophisticated musical palette. I think I remember listening to an interview with Rogan where he says, what he does during the week is that he intentionally listens to music he doesn't know and, like, makes that his homework. And then, like, on the weekends, he relaxes with stuff that he likes and knows and loves. So he's a guy who, obviously knows every Lizzy record. He's a guy who's just so ingrained with music knowledge and diverse taste, and that's one of the things I appreciate about him, is that he's not closed-minded. He has that full balanced perspective. There was like an MTV clip where he was telling people, listen to your parents' records because there's some cool stuff in there. Don't just write it off. So and the band is sounding great. It's just an all around cool performance. So yeah, let's get back to it.
Are you ready to rip it up? Are you ready to tear it down? You know what I'm talking about. Am I messing you around? Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to hit the floor?
Yeah, great energy. Great energy.
Then you're ready. Oh, Scott Gold's ready. Hey! Are you ready to rip it up? Are you ready to tear it down? Do you know what I'm talking about? Am I messing around? Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to hit the floor? Are you ready? If you're ready, I'm definitely ready. Hey!
Yeah, I mean, wow, just really just great energy with that performance. Everyone was great. I don't know who was playing bass in the clip, unfortunately. But it seems like the lineup was, Scott Gorham on guitar, John Sykes looks like also on guitar, Darren Warren on keyboards, and Brian Downey on drums. And, this show was, I guess, I think maybe the biggest vibe for Philo because that was the big Thin Lizzy reunion. I think was at this one. I think that was the first time they'd reunited since Phil's death. Don't quote me on that. My Thin Lizzy expertise get much worse after Phil's death. So it's like if you ask me who was in the band what year, I'm not going to be able to tell you because that's where it gets much more. The canon is much harder for me to remember at that point, especially since they weren't making new music during that time, which they really couldn't, and they eventually did the Black Star Riders thing. But in general, when I understand a band's history, I tend to anchor it around like what was the new album at the time, and that helps me remember who was in the band during different eras. Like, oh, because this person was on this album and they wrote these songs, etc., etc. But yeah, just a a great performance. And recommended me Phantom of the Opera. I am going to be watching that because it is currently free on YouTube, and I don't know how long it's going to stay free because 12 Angry Men was free, and now it's not free, but I watched it while it was free. But yeah, off topic. Great, great performance. Remembering Phil. But I'm in a happy mood. A lot of people are sort of like, the vibe for the vibe this year was I felt more somber than in maybe other years. I think because of the pandemic and people feeling isolated and wanting to be together. And I guess the vibe had become a big communal thing for people all over the world to gather in love of Phil Lynott and his music and his poetry, his storytelling, the man. Like they all gathered for that. But it's been rough for a lot of people. But this performance was great. I'm glad to share it with you, and I hope they upload clips from the 2020 live stream on YouTube because you know what, they were nice and they had good energy. It was good vibes for the vibe. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and please share the video with your fellow Lizzy-loving friends. Spread the word. Get all the Lizzy people to congregate here for Thin Lizzy Thursday. So, because that's what this is. This is about appreciation for Phil and his music. That is the point of this. It's just me spreading the good gospel. That is Thin Lizzy. There's no more motivation than that. It's just I think the music's great. I think it's underappreciated, and I want to go through each song and tell you why I think it's great, or why it doesn't work for me. But most of them work for me. Okay, I'm rambling. That's the end of the video. Bye, everyone.